On today's show, we're headed to Horseshoe Lake to learn more about the history of the channel catfish in the area.
Let's get some fish.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
And how they got there.
Very nice.
Then we'll look at the benefits of removing the invasive hybrid cattails from shorelines.
On most lakes, when you see a wide fringe of cattail, it's probably the hybrid.
Welcome to Prairie Sportsman. I'm Brett Amundsen. We got a great show for you this week, and it starts right now.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, and by Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org.
When people think about catching catfish, they tend to think about soaking a stinky bait in rivers like the Mississippi or Minnesota. But in this state, that's not the only way to do it. Today we're in the Cold Spring area to learn a little bit more about the Sauk River chain and a unique fishing opportunity that all started because of a decision made in the 1970s. We're back in the boat with catfish guru Darren Troseth of Three Rivers Fishing Adventures, this time on the Sauk River chain.
So we got a nice foggy morning here for us, Darren, and we're going after catfish. What's the plan?
So what's happening in this body of water is these fish are kind of relating to the weeds around the edges here. So basically we're going to be tossing bobbers right around the weed edge here.
It seems strange to me to use bobbers and fish a little shallower for catfish.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique situation, and that's why I thought it'd be fun to come out here, because that's not how you normally fish these catfish. And it is a late summer thing, kind of August into September, and it's a little different. It's different than even what I fish catfish all the time, and it's even unique to me, so that's why I come up here and like to do it, because it's a little different, and it's a lot of fun.
What are we using for bait?
So we are using, we're using shrimp.
Shrimp.
So believe it or not, I got this for $3.99 at Hy-Vee yesterday. So, for a 50 count for $3.99, you can't beat that. I mean, that's cheaper than night crawlers.
And if you don't catch anything, you still got something to eat.
Yeah, bring them home, throw them on the grill, you're good to go.
Let's get some fish.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Here you go, you can take that one.
All right.
I'll just head up on the bow here, but we're just gonna work along the shoreline.
We joke about bait looking delicious all the time, and if we don't catch anything, we can always eat the minnows, but this bait does look delicious. I would eat this. Maybe. Are they pre-cooked, or are these raw shrimp?
You want to use the raw shrimp. The cooked ones will not work, so.
Okay, why is that?
That's a good question. I think it's probably because most of the smell is out of them after you cook them, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I think they're going for the smell.
There's fish.
Fish on. Ooh, this is a nice one too. Real nice. Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
This is a really good one. Whew. I'll just stay up here if you want to net them back there.
Sure.
That's a really good one. Wow.
Oh, missed him.
All right, here he comes. There we go. Wow.
Nice.
Toad.
Good fish to start off
Yeah.
with.
I think that's over 30 inches. Pretty nice. Big old head on that thing. That's a big male there. Big wide head.
That's a heck of a fish to start off with.
Yeah, that's fun. That's what I'm talking about when you come up here. It's just, throwing along the shoreline and bang, 28 incher. That's a decent cat. That's, in fact, a 28 incher is a Minnesota master angler. So, that's first fish, like 10 minutes in here.
Now, maybe you won't say that size is common up here, but they're getting more common maybe, or they've been more common?
They are, yeah. So the DNR has increased the bag limit to try to thin out the amount of cats in here. And as they've done that, the size has increased. The population has gone down, the size has increased. And that's what it's really getting my attention now, because you're catching fish like that quite often, actually, so yeah.
In 2013, the average size was about 16.5 inches and 1.5 pounds. In 2024, the average size was, I think it was just about 22 inches and almost 4 pounds, so.
Channel catfish are native to Minnesota, but they've only been in the Sauk River chain since the mid-1970s.
There was some issues with the high numbers of bullheads and small black crappies. The crappie numbers were through the roof, but the growth was really slow. And so in order to try to decrease the population of the bullheads and the crappies, to hopefully stimulate growth, they wanted to put a bigger predator in there. And so they introduced channel catfish in 1976. From 1976 to 1986, I believe it was, they stocked upward of, about 60,000 fingerlings to yearling channel catfish.
Even though these fish were brought in for good reasons, not all locals and anglers were fond of the new introduction.
I started as the area manager in 2013, and I started working with the Lake Association. We started talking about issues that there may be, and one was catfish. There's a conception that by locals that there's just way too many, that catfish, that's all they're in here, and so it's kind of part of throwing them a bone. I thought, well, we'll try an experimental regulation. We'll increase the channel catfish possession limit to 10, which is basically double what the state is, but you can only have one over 24 inches. We'll run that for 10 years. We'll see what shakes out.
You're catching them on top waters, you're catching them with spinner baits, You're fishing for other fish, and all you're catching is catfish.
So if you're encouraging people to keep some, or if you're going to have some guiding clients out here, is there a size that you're looking for keep fish?
Kind of that, 20 to 24 inches, I think, is probably a good size. You start getting smaller, that 12 to 15 inches, you're not getting a lot of meat out of it. So I would say probably that 20-inch range is a good eater fish.
Well, seeing a 28 to start, that gets you excited a little bit. So
they fight so hard too. Yeah. They're fun.
Let's get some more.
Still have it. Oh, nice.
Oh, man. You see that one go down? It was right when you're talking about it, too. Goodness.
Darren is hooked up again.
That took, 5 minutes? Another pretty decent one. Dang. They just bulldog.
You can't see them.
There we go. Not quite as big. I guess, if I was to keep one, that would probably be a good keeper there. That's probably 22, 23 inches. You get a nice little meal out of that one.
In 2013 was where we seen the peak of channel catfish in the Sauk chain. It was about 27 per net. 2018, 2021, and then this year we sampled. We've seen the numbers of channel cats go down tremendously.
So we're casting this out, Darren, and you're only leaving it out there for a little bit.
Yeah, 15 seconds at the most, probably. And we're also moving quite a bit too. We're just working the shoreline, try to find these active fish.
Why are you only keeping it out there? You're just trying to find them? More about
I have found that that's the way they bite. Like if you keep it there for a minute, they're not going to bite. It's like they're reacting to the sound of the bobber hitting the water and also the sight of the shrimp falling. Yeah, so I've found I've casted to the same spot twice, and they'll hit it after I cast right to the same spot. So that's That's how I know they're reacting to the cast.
There's one thing that you said. We saw some cormorants up in trees. You said for whatever reason, whether it's a coincidence or not, you feel like sometimes the catfish are relating to those same areas.
Yes, and a friend of mine came up here before me one time, and he's like, we were catching fish all around the pelicans and cormorants, so that's kind of where I first started looking, and sure enough, so I don't know if they're eating off of fish that they're dropping in the water. Maybe they're defecating in the water. I don't know. Maybe they're eating that. I don't know.
Well, we just saw one surface right over here, and he surfaced 3 times, and I didn't quite cast far enough, so he's still there. See if I can get to him.
It's kind of a long cast.
Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, nice one.
Catfish are fun to catch. Man, they put up a pretty good fight. You know, it's one of those fish, Darren, I think that doesn't get the respect it deserves because of maybe the way it's classified.
Right.
Maybe the way, you know, maybe people are scared of them a little bit. But man, they're fun to catch.
They definitely fight hard.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
There we go.
There it is.
All right.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Might be one good one to eat.
Yep. If you're gonna eat one, there's a good size right there. Nice, clean one. He's talking to you.
You speak catfish?
That's classified.
All right, that was fun to catch. You can catch a lot of these up here, and they're good fish to eat. They put up a good fight, so don't be afraid to come up and try to catch some of these catfish. Simple to catch, a lot of fun. All right, so the setup is pretty simple. Darren, you just got, what, 30-pound braid on this rod?
Yeah, roughly 30 to 40 pound. You want to be a little bit heavier on it, but yeah, about 30 to 40.
And a bobber, split shot, and then a circle hook right there. And you're just tied directly onto this braid.
I do like having a bigger bobber because it makes a little bit of a noise when it splashes.
Oh, sure. But this is a real easy setup. So this is the, you know, there's so many times, and usually it's with you, Darren, that we talk about it, trying to catch some of the biggest fish in Minnesota, and the gear is simple and not that expensive. You know, like these big catfish rods, you can usually get those fairly cheap.
Yeah, they're just ugly
Big, tough
sticks.
rods.
Yeah.
So, but they're good gear for it, and simple setup, and we're not, you know, you could shore fish really for these things.
For sure.
And catch some big fish here in Minnesota. They're also delicious to eat.
My bobber. Oh, it's under.
Oh.
That's a nice
Oh,
fish.
that's another nice one. There we go.
They use these whiskers to kind of sense what's going on around down there, don't they?
Yeah, they're just a swimming tongue. Their whole body has like sensory glands on them, so they can, if they go by with their tail, they can taste the bait and stuff. But generally, it's their whiskers.
In the wintertime, about 12% of all anglers that fished out here fish for channel catfish. And oddly enough, in the summer, almost 20% of anglers are actually fishing for channel catfish. One thing we did see, though, was that about 50% of the channel catfish that were caught were all released. And so, that kind of led me to believe, like, well, it's probably not angling that's actually decreasing the population. So in 2021, we actually took a big aging sample from all of our fish that we caught over the summer. And what we found was that this population is a very old population. 82% of those fish were age 10 or older. We had fish all the way up to age 17. Typically those fish live to around 14 to 18 years. And so what we're seeing is, I think we're seeing a lot of these fish that are aging out of the population. 2024 is the year that we review the regulation that was put in 2015. Depending again what public comment comes in at, I can see staying with the 10, or I could see let's simplify and just go back to 5 and leave it with what statewide is.
While Joe doesn't believe you can give catfish all the credit, there's no doubt the crappies in the Sauk River chain are in a better place than they were 50 years ago.
Back in the 70s and 80s, very, very seldom would catch anything over 8 or 9 inches for black crappies, and now we're seeing crappies 12 to 13 inches, especially in the spring of the year when we're doing our targeted surveys.
That's a good one?
Yeah.
All right, I'll grab the
He's
net.
not moving.
Get the net.
Wow. This might be the, oh, that's about the same as that other one. All right.
All right. Just that easy. Well, Darren, this has been a lot of fun. Obviously, you don't need a lot of gear for it. Guys can come up here and do it on their own.
It's pretty easy. I mean, I don't know what we caught today, but it was a good number of them, so.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Darren.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We're doing minnow trap sampling and vegetation sampling at 6 lakes across Minnesota this summer.
We've learned that if you set them out for 10 days, you collect probably all the species that are there.
Cats love this plant, hence its common name. Eat the greens, eat the flowers. You can make a tea out of it.
So we have a native cattail in Minnesota. It's called the broadleaf cattail. We also have a non-native cattail called narrowleaf cattail that came from Europe. It's been in Minnesota since probably the 40s. Wherever you have that narrowleaf invasive and the native, they always reproduce together. And that hybrid is what causes the problem. When you have invasive hybrid cattail, it causes negative impacts to fish communities, negative impacts to water quality. On most lakes, especially around the metro, when you see a large fringe, a wide fringe of cattail, it's probably the hybrid. Native cattail grows really in more marshy areas, not out into the deep water. A lot of times you'll see it in a ditch by the road or in a wetland. You'll see it's interspersed with lots of other plants. The native has a very much wider leaf. It also has a bigger, fatter catkin. This brown part is the catkin. That's the female flowering part of the plant. The top part is the male part of the plant. It's a little bit past flower, but you'd shake this and that's where the pollen comes from. And you can see there's a space here, a really visible space between the male and female part of the plant. So if you were looking at a native cattail, you would see hardly any space. They would be touching, almost touching. The hybrid grows in both deeper and shallower water than either of its parents. When water's low, cattail moves in and then it keeps expanding and expanding. It suppresses native plants. You get this big monoculture of cattail that turns what was once water into almost terrestrial area, and fish don't seem to like it as well. Dissolved oxygen is much lower in the water column when you have cattail. There are some lakes that are entirely ringed by cattail, and that's probably all hybrid cattail. And we started to think about the fact that it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. We're never going to eradicate it. So how can we manage it at a small scale in a way that doesn't impact non-target species, right? For example, if you spray it with herbicide, you would be negatively impacting amphibians and larval fishes. So we started thinking about mechanical removal, cutting cattail below the water to increase the area available for native plants and perhaps increase habitat suitability for fishes. The Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center was interested in funding some work on hybrid cattail, so that's how it was funded, through MACIRC and by the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. We scouted a lot of lakes in our first summer, trying to find suitable sites on areas of public land, and DNR was really helpful with that. So we came up with 9 lakes that we studied.
The initial cattail removal happened in the fall of 21. After the first year of sampling, it was contracted out to a local company to do removal, which they did with mechanical harvesters and also a lot of hand trimming with motorized weed trimmers. When we're removing cattails, we're doing it underwater. They have to be cut below the water in order to deprive these stems of oxygen so that they don't come back. So here we've got a couple inches of water basically, so you would need to go basically all the way down to the root here to get them to prevent them from growing back. When we revisited our sites this year, after they were initially cut in 2021, definitely we've noticed shifts in the vegetation community. We've got a lot of native aquatic species coming back and colonizing in the sites where cattails have been removed.
From phase one, we learned that when you remove cattail, you see increases in dissolved oxygen in the water column. And we do seem to be seeing differences in fish community, but we needed a little more monitoring data. So that's what we're doing now is looking a little bit more extensively at fishes, looking at how fishes are using these openings and cattail stands at different times of the year.
We're doing minnow trap sampling and vegetation sampling at 6 lakes across Minnesota this summer. There's been at least some regrowth of cattails at all of our sites. So we have been going in with basically just a weed trimmer and removing what has sprung back up in the years since 2021. Today, we are out doing our minnow trap sampling at Big Marine Lake. We set minnow traps earlier this week, and so every day we go out and check them to see what fish have wandered into our traps overnight. We have minnow traps set in like a stand of native vegetation, set in a cattail stand, and also in our site where we've cut down the cattails. We're looking to see just if there's differences in the fish community between those 3 different sites.
We've learned that if you set them out for 10 days, you collect probably all the species that are there. So this is the 3rd year of the project. So we had 2 years, so a little bit of a break, and then this is phase 2. So we'll have either 2 or 3 summers going forward. As we all know, years are really variable. The first year of our study was a drought, the second year was a flood. So when you have a lot of variability, it's important to sample multiple times so you can get a sense of what's really going on in spite of the climatic variability. If we can remove cattail and let plants grow back with a permit, which of course you need to remove cattail, that can be beneficial. So it's something that has the potential for Minnesotans to do. You can get an aquatic plant management permit from the DNR. The permit currently is 15 feet wide from shoreline to open water. They will come out and inspect and let you know yes or no, whether you're able to do that. There are a number of commercial contractors who will come and remove it. Some people do it on their own. Our crew does it with kind of what I call the underwater weed whacker. Some people just use a hand rake method. You can't dig up the soil. We're never going to get rid of it, but we're trying to manage it. Cutting cattail is only part of the story. We really want to make sure that we're allowing native plants to grow back. We move it out of the water. It allows sunlight into the water column and down to the sediment. Aquatic plant seeds are viable for many years in the sediment. So really, we found just opening up the space and the sunlight to get to the sediment, native plants are coming back. Things like bulrush, lily pads, all those different pond lilies, water celeries, potamogetons, what you think of as I was a kid, seaweed. Lakes are super important to Minnesota. We're the land of 10,000 lakes. One of the things we really like to do on lakes is fish, and recreational fishing is of economic importance to Minnesota, and people, their grandkids come and want to fish. So if we want healthy fish communities, healthy lake ecosystems, you want to be able to swim, you need to make sure your vegetated nearshore ecosystems are healthy.
Stories about aquatic invasive species research are brought to you by the Aquatic Invasive Species Task Forces of Meeker, Yellow Medicine, Lac-qui-Parle, Swift, and Big Stone counties, and by the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. We can stop aquatic hitchhikers from infesting more lakes and streams by cleaning up everything we pull out of the water. It's a simple drill. Clean in, clean out. Before leaving a water access, clean your boat and water equipment. Remove and dispose of all plants and aquatic species in the trash. Drain water from your boat, ballast tanks, motor, live well, and bait container. Remove drain plugs and keep drain plugs out while transporting equipment. Dispose of unwanted bait in the trash. To keep live bait, drain the water and refill the bait container with bottled or tap water. And if you have been in infested waters, also spray your boat with high-pressure water. Rinse with very hot water. Dry for at least 5 days. Stop the spread of AIS.
We are sitting next to, it is a non-native plant. It is commonly called catnip, and it is a member of the mint family. Now, telltale sign of a mint family plant would be that the stem is actually square, it's not round. And you can tell that by feeling it and also just looking at it. Also, the leaves of catnip are opposite each other, meaning it's almost kind of like they're shaking hands, and the stem is kind of in between them then. So shaking hands with the stem. And then you can see the blooming part is, it's kind of a whitish flowers. Cats love this plant, hence its common name. My mom called me over the other day and said there was a cat rolling around in their yard in a certain plant and wanted me to come over. Sure enough, it was catnip. So catnip has an effect on cats. There's a chemical in the catnip, and it attracts the cat, and it serves as like a great kind of calming agent. So you might see a cat roll around in this stuff, and then they just kind of get zoned out after that. And so kind of the same effect for humans, maybe to a little lesser extent, but the plant is edible, so you can, eat the greens, eat the flowers. You can make a tea out of it. If you drink it before bed, it's supposed to promote just like a good full night's sleep, and it's just kind of a body calming plant. So again, you can dry that or have it fresh, edible parts. You can throw it in a mixed green salad, and it has kind of a peppery, minty flavor to it. Also, if you see this and you know that it's catnip, take a clipping. If you have a cat, bring it home and they'll thank you for it. So catnip, kind of a fun little plant.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, and by Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org.